Iran's message to the U.S. this Monday night.
We do not seek war, but we are fully prepared for it.
And what could happen if the regime falls. A Saskatchewan family's anguish.
I have no answers. I just want to know what happened.
The investigation at a hospital where her son died after an altercation with security. Grok blocked. Why two countries are banning the AI chatbot and the pressure on Canada to take action. Plus, life in the fast lane.
I was in so much pain.
The first Canadian to run a half marathon in less than an hour.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Iran's rulers who have fiercely cracked down on those challenging their power vow they remain in control of the country. Getting accurate information out of Iran is difficult because the regime has cut communications. Human rights groups estimate hundreds of people have been killed and a warning the images are disturbing. The dead are being counted and buried. Desperate families searching crowded makeshift morgues for loved ones. There are accounts of unarmed protesters being shot where they stood. Iran's foreign minister says Iran is prepared for war, but also for dialogue with the U.S. Vincent McAviney has our top story tonight.
On the airwaves, Iranian state TV only broadcasts images of peaceful, supposedly pro-regime rallies across the country. On the streets, they were even joined by Iran's president. But note the number of nervous-looking security personnel surrounding him. Authorities shut down phone and internet service in an effort to stop footage spreading on social media of their violent backlash against the biggest protest since 2009. It's believed almost 11,000 protesters have been arrested, with one US-based human rights group claiming to have verified the deaths of at least 496 protesters and 48 security personnel. Hospital morgues like this one in the capital Tehran are so overwhelmed, bereaved families are forced to try to identify loved ones on the streets outside. The regime claims they were killed by armed terrorists. But these are the kinds of scenes President Trump said could trigger US intervention, something he reiterated on Sunday night.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. They rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it. And we're looking at some very strong options.
This weekend saw demonstrations by exiled Iranians around the world. The combination of threats from the US president and an internal economic crisis is putting the regime under pressure. Because of Trump's comments, elements seeking to create chaos went after increasing the death toll in the hope of possibly drawing the United States into intervening. We do not seek war, but we are fully prepared for it. The Iranian regime is accusing Israel of instigating the unrest, which they now claim is under total control. Violent suppression may bring them short-term reprieve, but with the aging Ayatollah's government unable to solve this cost-of-living crisis, Iranian anger is unlikely to go away soon. Vincent McAviney, Global News, London.
A little later, Eric Sorensen looks at whether regime change in Iran may be inevitable. The U.S. Justice Department has taken an extraordinary step. It has launched a criminal investigation into the chair of the Federal Reserve, America's central bank, accusing Jerome Powell of abusing taxpayers' dollars in a renovation of the bank's headquarters. Powell has pushed back, saying it's really about him defying President Trump's pressure to reduce interest rates. And today, every former chair of the Federal Reserve warned the move threatens the central bank's independence. Candace Cole reports.
This unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure.
That's Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell blasting the Department of Justice in a rare rebuke of the Trump administration after he says the central bank was subpoenaed Friday, threatening a criminal indictment related to his congressional testimony last summer concerning the cost of renovations to the Fed's headquarters, which has grown to $2.5 billion. A figure Trump and Powell openly disagreed on during a site visit last July.
It looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Powell says the subpoenas have nothing to do with his testimony, but says it's a consequence for the central bank maintaining its independence, calling it pretext to apply even more pressure.
This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
The DOJ's investigation comes after a year of mounting pressure from Trump to lower interest rates, which the Fed has done 3 times since September.
We have a total stiff at the Fed.
Many see it as an attempt to oust Powell as Fed chair, as Trump has threatened to do numerous times in the past, sparking bipartisan backlash. With Republican Senator Tom Tillis refusing to confirm any Fed chair nominee until the matter is resolved and calling into question the credibility and independence of the DOJ, and Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren saying it's Trump's attempt to complete his corrupt takeover of the Fed, accusing him of abusing the law. But according to NBC News, Trump claimed to know nothing about the investigation. When asked if he's still interested in taking over as Fed chair, National Economic Council advisor Kevin Hassett replied,
Yes, of course.
Powell's term is set to expire in May. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
The state of Minnesota is suing the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary, seeking to block a surge of ICE agents into that state. Over the weekend, Kristi Noem vowed to deploy hundreds of additional agents into Minneapolis-St. Paul. At least 2,400 ICE officers are already there, ramping up a crackdown on immigrants. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz laid flowers at a growing memorial for Renee Good, who was shot and killed by an ICE agent last week. Noem has described Good as a domestic terrorist. The family of a First Nations man who died after an altercation with security at a Saskatoon hospital disputes claims surrounding his death. 36-year-old Trevor Dubois was undergoing chemotherapy at the Royal University Hospital last Friday. Police say investigators determined hospital security entered his room after it was reported a firearm was seen inside. He died after a physical altercation. Police say an imitation firearm was found, along with meth and drug paraphernalia. His family doubts those details.
My brother didn't have a malicious bone in his body, as thousands of people that know him would agree.
He told me, Mom, he says, I'm gonna better the world. He was younger.
They say Trevor showed no signs of distress a day before his death and believe the imitation firearm was actually his lighter. The Saskatoon Tribal Council chief believes Trevor was assaulted and urges the province to address systemic racism in Saskatchewan's healthcare system. The BC Supreme Court has begun hearing a case that questions whether faith-based, publicly funded hospitals have the right to refuse certain procedures based on religious beliefs. 34-year-old Sam O'Neill was terminally ill with cancer when she sought a medically assisted death while at Vancouver's St. Paul's Hospital, a Catholic-run facility. She was refused and had to be transferred to another place to receive MAID. Her parents say that caused her last hours to be filled with unnecessary pain.
We are here because we believe Sam's rights to freedom of religion and beliefs and her rights to life and liberty and security of person were violated. We are also here because we do not want to see anyone else suffer needlessly from another unjustified forced transfer.
The defendants are the BC Health Ministry and Providence Healthcare, which runs St. Paul's and 17 other religiously affiliated healthcare facilities. Critics say the first test of the federal government's controversial gun buyback program has proved to be a major misfire. During a pilot of the program in Cape Breton, far fewer weapons were handed in than expected. Heidi Petracek explains.
The Minister of Public Safety insists the recent test run of Ottawa's gun buyback program wasn't about quantity, but quality, collecting just 25 prohibited firearms from 16 people.
There's much more to look at the systemic issues that may occur.
When the pilot launched in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia in October, it met resistance from some registered gun owners. Now Public Safety says it is making changes to provide a clearer registration process, allow more time for declaration, and fix functional gaps in the online portal. But that won't appease opponents who call the 25 firearms returned evidence of failure.
You're also blaming a law-abiding community for the amount of crime going on. And, you know, that's just an extra gut punch on top of it.
Anandasangaree insists the full program will launch soon, but didn't say exactly when.
When we roll out the program in its full form in the upcoming weeks, we do anticipate much greater uptake.
For gun control advocacy groups, it's been a long time coming.
The buyback of prohibited assault weapons was promised in 2020.
A Trudeau-era commitment after the Nova Scotia mass shooting. And while supporters argue the program isn't perfect,
the goal is, of course, to prevent especially mass shootings, which are typically committed with these weapons that are designed to kill rapidly and effectively.
Although some experts say the money would be better spent on crime prevention, community policing, and violence interruption programs, which are typically underfunded.
There are a number of programs that are actually cheaper than gun buybacks and have paid bigger dividends in public safety, and there's much more support and much more research supporting them.
In the end, Public Safety says the Cape Breton pilot project paid out more than $26,000 for 25 guns handed in. The program's budget, more than $700 million. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
Canada's Prime Minister heads to China tomorrow for a 3-day visit, the first time a sitting Prime Minister has gone there in more than 8 years. Mark Carney wants to double non-U.S. exports from Canada over the next 10 years, and China offers potential, though there are some serious obstacles, including Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola and the fact China is considered Canada's biggest security threat. And now 2 Liberal MPs have cut short their working trip to Taiwan. David Akin will be traveling with the Prime Minister. David.
Well, Donna, the 2 Liberal MPs, Helena Jazik and Marie-France Lalonde, and 3 Conservative MPs had traveled to Taiwan as part of a parliamentary delegation that was paid for by the Taiwanese government. That's normal. It has been done before. Now, the 2 Liberal MPs, acting on advice from their own government, cut that trip short and are heading home. That's rare. The 2 Liberals say they didn't want to cause what they called confusion about Canada's Taiwan policy, and they didn't elaborate beyond that. Canada, of course, recognizes Taiwan's independence. Shouldn't be any confusion there. Well, Beijing views Taiwan as a breakaway province. The Prime Minister's office had no additional comment, and the 3 Conservatives, they remained in Taiwan. Conservative Foreign Affairs critic Michael Chong, he accused the Carney government of, quote, kowtowing to Beijing's authoritarianism in bringing those Liberals home. Donna.
And David, what are the expectations for this trip to China?
Well, Carney's advisors emphasize that this trip is all about diversifying trade and attracting investment. Carney might speak about Taiwan and other democracy and human rights issues in private, but this trip is really part of a process to re-establish relations that had been frozen. Now, during his 2 days in Beijing, Carney is going to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Carney is looking for a path to lift Chinese tariffs on Canadian agricultural products, especially canola. And while officials caution that there really is unlikely to be a deal this week on those tariffs, they say that this high-level meeting is part of the process that Canada hopes will lead to a reduction of trade tensions with what is, after all, Canada's second largest trading partner. Donna.
Okay, David Akin in Ottawa. Thanks, David. The uproar over Elon Musk's chatbot. Coming up, why Grok is under international pressure. Regulators in a number of countries are putting pressure on Elon Musk and his artificial intelligence chatbot, Grok. It's been used to create sexualized images of women and children without consent. 2 countries have now temporarily blocked Grok, and the UK is formally investigating X, the social media platform Grok runs on. Taria Isri reports on the backlash and what Canada is considering doing.
Grok, an AI chatbot offered by Elon Musk's X, is now at the center of a global backlash.
They are not harmless images. They're weapons of abuse, disproportionately aimed at women and girls.
Grok has been used to produce graphic deepfakes of real women and children, stripping them down to bikinis or worse, and sharing these photos without consent. The UK is the latest country to launch an investigation.
Lives can and have been devastated by this content, which is designed to harass, torment, and violate people's dignity.
Malaysia and Indonesia have gone a step further, banning Grok altogether. In response to the outcry, Musk limited some of Grok's features to paying users only. There are active discussions about how this country should respond. A report emerged in The Telegraph that the UK is trying to rally like-minded countries, such as Canada, to crack down. In a post, AI Minister Evan Solomon said contrary to media reports, Canada is not considering a ban of X. The Canadian Centre for Child Protection warns lawmakers are failing to keep up with the explosion of AI.
We need to get something in place so that we can get the wheels turning with this, because this legislation was needed 20 years ago.
The federal government tabled C-16 last month that would increase penalties for crimes like distributing sexual images, real and fake, without consent.
If you move too quickly, you're going to mess it up. There's a whole lot of nuance, and there's a whole lot of protected expression and protected activity that could be captured if you get it wrong.
The UK isn't waiting, vowing to accelerate legislation that would criminalize the use of so-called nudification apps. Taria Isri, Global News, Montreal.
Iran's future ahead. A look at who many Iranians want to lead a transition towards a new government. For the past 47 years, Iranians have had to choose between living obediently under an Islamic dictatorship or fleeing their country. It's impossible to know exactly what is happening inside Iran right now, but many analysts believe the Ayatollah's time may be running out. Eric Sorensen looks at why the odds of regime change appear to be growing.
For almost 50 years, Iran's brutal theocracy has crushed political opposition. But has life in Iran become so unaffordable, so unlivable, that Iranians will keep protesting until the supreme leader is gone? One analyst says they have nothing to lose.
This is a result of years of mismanagement, of very severe corruption in the country, and also severe economic sanctions imposed from the outside.
And not just outside sanctions. U.S. and Israeli bombings last year showed the military weakness of the regime. President Donald Trump is renewing threats amid analysis that Western intelligence has penetrated deep into Iran.
Recent U.S. and, for that matter, Israeli actions has shown substantial intelligence about what was going on in their target countries, be it Iran or be it Venezuela, and has shown considerable sophistication about how to get around the resistance.
The regime has cut phone and internet service, but one cyber expert says American satellite-to-cell phone technology could bypass the crackdown.
For Iranians, this would be transformative, They could communicate freely, organize, share what's happening with the world.
What's also different is rising support for Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah of Iran. He was ousted by the Iranians in 1979, but many are now shouting the son's name in the streets and in protests around the world.
First is, I think, is Shah needs calm.
This man hopes a new Shah could act as a transition to a better government. Pahlavi posted this video Sunday.
President Trump.
He too believes President Trump is prepared to intervene, a sign of how much has changed that many Iranians would look to Trump and the return of the Shah for help.
We are doing what we can as Iranians fighting this brutal regime.
A former Canadian diplomat thinks this time in Iran is different.
The regime really seems to be on its last legs. Whether it's this round of protests, there will be a future round of protests because it simply does not have the economic answers for what is behind these protests.
But for the Iranian people, a tipping point may only come at the cost of many lives as the regime, desperate to save itself, cracks down once more. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
No Canadian is faster. Next, meet the man who has mastered the half marathon. Canadian tennis star Milos Raonic is officially hanging up his racket. The 35-year-old announced his retirement on Sunday, writing, "I have been the luckiest person to get to live out and fulfill my dreams." Raonic is best known for his powerful serve. He holds the record for highest-ranked Canadian singles player, reaching third in the world in 2016. That same year, he became the first Canadian man to reach a Grand Slam singles final. A Calgary man has shattered a running record. He is the first Canadian to run a half marathon in under an hour. Rory Linkletter did it over the weekend in Houston, Texas. Heather Yourex-West spoke with him about his achievement and the Olympic goals he's setting for the road ahead.
It was the final push in what would be a record-breaking race. Calgary native Rory Linkletter becoming the first Canadian to finish a half marathon, 21.1 kilometers, in under an hour.
It was, pure elation, honestly. It was awesome. I first had to throw up. You know what I mean? I was in so much pain and pushing really hard to get to the line.
At 59 minutes and 49 seconds, Linkletter beats the previous record set by BC's Cam Levins back in 2023. The two men teammates in Paris as part of Canada's Olympic team.
Had his number so far in half marathons, but he's still got mine in the marathon. So we got some things to go back and forth for.
It was really awesome to see. It was really, really cool. First Canadian ever to break 60 in the half marathon is something special.
Linkletter now lives and trains in Arizona, trading Calgary's snow and strong Chinook winds for a climate that's kinder to distance runners.
So I haven't really actually toughed out an entire winter in Calgary to tell you how hard it truly is.
With a goal he's been chasing for the last 6 years achieved, the father of two will try and beat his record next month in Vancouver before he becomes a father of three.
Since becoming a father, I've only gotten better at what I'm doing. And I think the real reason behind that is the balance it brings to my life, the purpose it brings to my life, and the motivation.
After making his Olympic debut in 2024 with a 47th place finish in the marathon, the looming Los Angeles Games in 2028 is a major source of motivation as well, hoping to build on the momentum from his record-breaking finish in Houston as he chases down some big Olympic goals. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is this hand-sewn quilt in Lake Country, BC. We'd love to see Your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.